The moment I saw the yellow paper, I knew my peaceful summer was over. It was an eviction notice, taped to the cedar of my cabin door, signed by none other than our 44, a self-appointed homeowners association president. The audacity of it. A woman who didn't even own property on the lake, telling me I had a week to vacate my family's land, made a cold fury curdle in my gut. My grandfather built this place with his own 2 hands 80 years ago, and I spent every summer of my life here. The smell of damp pine and fresh lake water a permanent part of my memories. How could someone possibly think they had the right? The paper was thick, glossy, and smelled faintly of cheap perfume, a stark contrast to the rustic scent of the forest that surrounds my cabin. I tore it from the door, the tape making a sickening ripping sound, and crumpled it in my fist, the sharp edges digging into my palm. My breath hitched. Was this really happening? My hands were shaking so much I had to put my coffee cup down before I dropped it. I walked to the end of my dock, listening to the gentle lapping of the waves against the weathered wood, trying to ground myself. A kingfisher called from across the water, a sharp, joyful sound that seemed to mock the tension coiled in my chest. What was her game? Our 44 a name I learned was just her obnoxious license plate number had moved in last year, transforming the old Reynolds cabin into a glass and steel monstrosity that looked completely out of place on the lake. She immediately started sending out passive-aggressive community bulletins, complaining about things like unauthorized boat docks and non-compliant lawn ornaments. She'd even complained about the sound of my dog, a geriatric golden retriever named Scout, barking at squirrels. Is there no peace for a person to enjoy their morning yoga? Her note had read, as if my dog's existence was a personal affront to her inner chi. Now this, an eviction notice. My mind raced, trying to find a logical path through her madness. Did she have some hidden legal claim? Couldn't imagine what. My family's deed was ironclad, passed down for generations. I felt a wave of nausea, a mix of anger and genuine fear. What if this was real? The thought of losing this cabin, this sanctuary, made my vision blur. I paced the length of the dock, my boots thudding softly on the planks, my mind a storm of curses and counterplans. I needed to see her face. I needed to confront her. I grabbed my keys and jumped in my old Jeep, the engine coughing to life with a familiar groan. Her place was a short drive, a jarring splash of modernity in a sea of rustic charm. I found her on her perfect, composite wood deck, sipping from a huge, gaudy wine glass. She saw me approach and offered a saccharine smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hello, dear. Did you get my notice?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. "You have to be kidding me," I said, my voice low and tight. "You have no authority here. This is my land." She laughed, a high, tinkling sound that grated on my nerves. "The Homeowners Association has been in talks for months. Your cabin is a blight. It's a health and safety risk. It's an eyesore. It devalues my property." My jaw tightened. There is no Homeowners Association. We've been here for 80 years. It's a handshake community. She just smiled, that cold, unsettling smile, and took a long sip of her wine. A new age requires new rules. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a very important conference call with the board. With that, she turned her back and walked inside, leaving me standing there, my fists clenched, feeling small and powerless. Was she right? Was there a board? My heart sank. Was all this really for nothing? No. The thought was unacceptable. I drove back to my cabin, the image of her smug face burning in my mind. I needed to fight this. But how? My head was pounding. I went straight to my grandfather's study, a room filled with old books and dusty maps. He was a lawyer, a man who believed every word on paper mattered. I started digging, pulling out heavy old ledgers and rolls of parchment that crackled with age. I found his journals, filled with his spidery handwriting, detailing every transaction he ever made. And then I found it. Tucked inside a brittle, leather-bound volume was the original deed, a grant from the county dating back to 1941. It wasn't just the cabin and the half-acre of land. It was everything. I saw a line that made my breath catch in my throat. And all riparian rights of the adjacent body of water known as Lake Serenity. He didn't just buy the land on the shore. He bought the lakebed. The entire 20-acre, pristine body of water was mine. The feeling of disbelief gave way to a powerful, righteous joy. My grandfather, a man who cherished his privacy above all else, had quietly ensured that no one could ever touch his little slice of heaven. Our 44 had no idea who she was messing with. I drove back to town, my mind buzzing, and went straight to the hardware store. I bought the biggest, most durable sign I could find, along with a gallon of the brightest red paint. I spent the rest of the day carefully stenciling and painting the words, my hands shaking with excitement. The next morning, I drove my boat, the old motor thrumming a victorious beat, to the center of the lake. I hammered the massive sign into the solid rock of the largest island, the sound of the hammer echoing across the quiet water. Our 44 was out on her dock, in a ridiculous floppy sun hat, yelling into her phone. She looked over, saw me on the island, and gave me a condescending wave. I just smiled, a real smile this time, and pointed to the new sign. Her mouth dropped open, her phone slipping from her grasp with a splash. The sign was massive, impossible to miss, painted in bold, defiant letters for all to see. It read, "Private property. Violators will be prosecuted." Below, in smaller print, it read, "Lake Serenity. All access by permission only. T. Miller, owner." The lake was mine. She, and anyone else, had to ask my permission to swim, boat, or even fish. The homeowners association, the eviction, her entire little power trip was gone, dissolved by a forgotten deed and a well-placed sign. I looked across the lake at her, a small, furious figure on her perfect deck. The lake, my lake, shimmered under the morning sun, calm and vast and beautiful. My breath felt lighter than it had in days. It wasn't about the lake anymore. It was about justice. And the universe, in its own quiet way, always delivers.